where to place such a community when the fear of the unknown is so great in almost every cult on the planet that the structures and regulations and laws of an existing cult built on existing paradigms are so thick and dense that it's like concrete and pavement on the soul of possibility that is emerging from the psyche in these ideas, in these designs. And so, in many ways, the most important thing as a germinating seed, the most important thing in terms of choosing the location of such a community is where the fear of the unknown is reduced, which correlates to a low trauma environment. Secondly, out of that, where there is low regulation. And thirdly, that the costs of experimenting, because this is, to do a 10x culture is something that no one has done sustainably well to this extent that I am aware of. So it's an ambitious project. And if you look at startup phenomena, and in the capitalist framework, the whole goal is to succeed at starting a new business or something like that. And 90% of all new business ventures fail, and that's using existing paradigms in infrastructures that are designed to make people money. These infrastructures are not designed to make people happy. They're designed to make people money, with the promise that money will then will then lead to happiness, a promise which, by the way, after you get above 100,000 or so, doesn't turn out to generally be the case. Very few people have the intelligence to spend money over $100,000 in ways that yield to increasing amounts of well-being rather than it tapering off and plateauing. As George Lucas pointed out, after you've bought 20 sports cars, buying one more doesn't bring you the same happiness as a 16-year-old getting his first dream car, right? It cost 1/10 of a supercar, in your 50s with a billion-dollar budget. And so there's this tremendous tapering off. And so where to put this is largely about where is their friendliness. And this can be either when there's desperation, when people are too miserable with the status quo. That's a good time to say, well, why don't we try doing something 10 times better? The status quo is already too miserable. And it is very important to understand that many people would rather commit suicide than face this amount of change. Many people would rather kill their children in suicides to escape the amount of pain in a dysfunctional cult than they would embrace this amount of change. So it's the fear of the unknown is very thick. So I place a big priority knowing how small businesses tend to fail initially. If you think of the startup paradigm, most startups fail because they burn cash at twice the rate that they thought they would. And so they run out of all their funds before they turn the corner and become profitable. It's one of the biggest reasons for a startup to crash and burn. And so that's the most horrifying outcome, is to have people get excited about these possibilities and to run out of money before you get, you think of, working in a place like the Philippines, which is the most likely place, for something like this. They have the worst internet in the world that I've seen, and the most expensive, with all kinds of, absurdities around internet connection. Otherwise, it's a pretty neat place in terms of land and soft regulation, etc. And so keeping costs low financially is what affords someone the ability to spend a year figuring out how to do this well, to spend 3 years figuring out how to do this well. And so that's a lot of my focus. And so low-cost labor, low-cost land, low regulations. I think are some of the most important things around this community. And below are some of the land choices that I'm looking at so far. And culture is a really important part. For example, in Thailand, I'm always 300% happier than I am in the US. Is it the smiling people? Is it the Thai massage? Is it the magnificent beaches? Is it 300% higher quality food? Is it a lower cost of living? Yes, yes, yes. But Thailand is relatively traditional in some ways. I'm not sure how easily something like this fits in. The government is, very tight around businesses and foreigners doing businesses and foreigners owning land and all of that. So you're not allowed to own land as an American in Thailand. So that's kind of a non sequitur. You need a license to play live music. You need a license to serve food. You might need 6, 7, 8, 10 licenses to, and then all of these things become ways to graft and tax. So this is a way that while something's getting started, it could be taxed off. It's like a new fetus being born. And, if the government demands their quart of blood, that's the entire blood for a new fetus. It's not at a stage where it can withstand this kind of draining attack from an existing protocol. And so these are some of the issues. And obviously, never having met an individual in my entire life that invited anything like this and showed up with anything like the competency to pull this off, I have to assume that I may have to bear every single expense to get it to a certain point. And so, that dictates also a low initial land cost and things of that, and being able to hire, for example, in the Philippines, if I can hire someone for $10, $20 a day rather than $10, $20 an hour, who's more helpful and friendly than an American, well, that's just saved 90% of the cost, making it more likely that something like this can get off the ground before it goes under. Now, of course, once 100 people are tracking how they live a 1,000% higher quality life with less money, the next iteration can be easily funded. Everyone's looking for this, by the way, just nobody knows how to do it. Every single person on the planet wants a 10 times higher quality life for less energy than they're currently spending on their existing life. Everyone wants it. But it is elusive within the dogma of existing paradigms. And so this does not show up in the radar of existing paradigms. And so it may be that I am the only one that sees this clearly until there's proof of concept. And so that's driving a lot of the location at the moment.